So this is basically my February TBR. It's been a while since I've done an unhaul challenge video. It's something that I want to do more of, especially because I've reached a point where I just have too many books. Yes, I'm admitting it, I have too many. To the point where I'm considering adding more shelves. The problem is there's no room for any more shelves in this room. Also, just reading down everything that I own, because I keep finding that I'm reading things not in my own library. Just whether I get them from Scribd or the library or whatever, but they don't tend to be ones that I own. And I really am trying to get better about curating a library that I personally really enjoy. The idea of the unhaul challenge was originally to pull out a random challenge, basically, that I would then build a TBR around. However, there is one glaring TBR that just has been staring at me for a lot longer than it should. And it's my book cart. I labeled it to read, so naturally I should read them. Some of these books have been on the to read for a year now, and the problem is that I am reading other things, other TBRs, other books that I want to get to, and there's no room on the cart of which I had designated the space for. I have to have designated spaces, ending up all over the place. And I do think that part of this is why I ended up not completing a lot of books last year, because I honestly forgot that I was reading them. It's a problem. I'm working on it. I figured I will look at these and this will be my TBR. Now, there are a few exceptions on this, but they don't need to be here anymore. So there are two anthologies on this card. We have Hex Life, which is all about like witchy stories and whatnot, and it is one that I have started and have read some stories from, but I'm not going to choose the anthologies for this video because they are things that I like to consume over long periods of time. And then the other one is Beast and Beauty, fairy tale type stories. So again, this is a short story collection, so not something that I plan on reading within the month, something that I will slowly devour over time. Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, just because this isn't really a book that I care to read to begin with. It's not that I'm not ever going to be interested in it, it's just that honestly, this book is kind of more of like an aesthetic book for me. I like it for book pictures, I like it for things like that. Will I get to it eventually? Maybe, but it's not one that I am super concerned about, and it's not one that I would plan on giving away anyway, which leaves all of these, which is still a lot of books. So we have Monsters Born and Made. This was an ARC that I received from Sourcefire a while back, and obviously I didn't get to it before release, but it is one that really interests me, and it's basically a YA fantasy that has a till the death type game, which are some of my favorites. We also have Dracula, My Love, and this, I believe, is kind of like a romance, I think, around Dracula. I'm honestly not too sure. I think this woman is in a relationship. She might be married, but she comes across this very fascinating man and is really drawn to him, and basically has to make a choice between the life that she knows or this, like, unknown, mysterious man. So, a cover was, it was mostly a cover by. So there's that. The Poe shadow. This is kind of based around Poe's last day, and it's this detective who notices how weird Edgar Allan Poe's last days were and becomes kind of entangled in a lot of mysterious and not so good things. Witches of New York, I think, has lived on this the longest, and it's also lived on my TBR shelf one of the longest, so it is time. This was gifted to me by a lovely patron at the library who thought I would really enjoy it. And I feel kind of guilty because I want to say that was probably an upwards of 5 years ago. And it's just time to read it. A young woman who is gifted in seeing the future, possibly, or just has some sort of magical abilities, and she ends up moving to New York to kind of really harness these abilities, but it is very dangerous, I want to say, for a magic user like herself. I might be really wrong about that. I just skimmed the synopsis, so. But I like witches and I like New York, so yep, that's plenty, that's good enough. Then we have the Hacienda, and this is a newer one on the list, but it is one that I've really wanted to get to, so it's time. ignoring the rumors of the disappeared wife, ends up marrying this man and moving into the hacienda. And the thing is, there's something weird in the house, and there's just something really wrong, and she ends up befriending a priest to kind of help her deal with the malevolent things in the house. I also have my best friend's Exorcism, and I really want to read this and watch the movie. I've heard terrible things about it, but I'm still intrigued. I love doing a good book to movie, seeing how things work. So also this cover is just amazing. I really like Grady Hendrix's other work, so I'm unsure how I will feel about this one. So we will see. Exorcism type things aren't normally my jam, but I do like horror, and like I do like Grady's writing. A Mirror Mended by Alexi Haro. Alexi Haro is one of my favorite authors, and I really enjoy this series. This is the second, and the first one is a like feminist Sleeping Beauty retelling, and we are following one of the characters from the first one into another world about princesses in fairy tales making a life for themselves. I think this one might be based more around a villain. I don't know why I've been putting that one off, and it's a good break in between all these hefty things. The Demonic, this is a newer one. This was one that I picked up on a whim kind of at a used bookstore, and I just feel like I've been really enjoying horror, so why not give it a try? This is about a woman who has to return home after her father dies, but something is also in the house. So this one just seems so cute, and it seems like it will be a nice break between all of these things. And this is about a group of young witches, and basically they have to go through these tests and find out like where they kind of align as witches. And we find out that our main character she's like something. She's a spare, that's what it is. She's a spare, and she ends up grouping up with a bunch of other spares, and they try to harness their magic. Is my February TBR, and we'll see how it goes. I don't know what order I'm gonna read these in. I have no clue. They're all kind of different, but also kind of similar, so it's gonna be hard for me as a mood reader, probably. I feel like I don't want to get rid of any of these, but we're gonna find that out, aren't we? Okay, oh my god, let me just fall over. Finished my first book, and it was The Witchlings. And this was pretty heckin' cute. I'm not gonna lie, this was like, I feel like I thought this was YA. It reads as middle grade, which makes me think it might be middle grade, but I will say I feel like this is a really great in-between. Like, in-between middle grade, in-between YA, a really good transition book. So definitely want to keep in mind. Why am I like out of breath? I've done nothing in this moment. I thought this was really enjoyable. I like the story, you know, 3 outcasts essentially get placed together. They're kind of working through some troubles of their own, and then they're given this impossible task to do, and they have to go kill a monster, and they have to work together in order to do that. But there's also like some weird things going on with the monster, and it's connected to a few other things that are happening in the town. It's a magical story about friendship and family and found family and friends and whatnot. I think this is great, especially as someone who like would be looking for something magical. It takes a lot of things that are really familiar and has a lot of references to some famous wizarding stories and kind of freshens them up and twists them on their head a little bit. So I really found the familiarness of this really comforting, and it's a really fun read. I will say I don't think it was like the best things I've ever read necessarily. It didn't really sprinkle enough in to let us get to the end result. A lot of like really like in your face red herring type things. It was fun, and I think that's all it really needs to be, is a fun story. I'm probably going to give it like a 3.5 because at the end of the day it wasn't my favorite story. I do think I'm going to hang on to the book though, because it is set up to be a series, so I am interested to see what will happen next. So I do think I'm going to hold on to it for now. It's also just such a cute story. It's beautiful! I love the characters. I love the kind of like serious topics that they have to go through in the different trials and whatnot. So anyway, if you're looking for a good like wholesome pick-me-up story, magical, just fun stuff all around, this was good. It was good, and it is saved today.
What you making?
Oh, put it up my cookie. We need to talk. We need to talk about, what am I doing? I don't know. We need to talk about the Poe shadow. First of all, gorgeous. I'm obsessed with this cover. It's like shiny, it's black, it's ooky spooky. It looks like Victorian-esque type thing. The spine of this, the spine. Jesus. The spine of this? Gorgeous, stunning, amazing, right? I'm gonna have to unhaul this. And I'm kind of upset because this book is stunning. I'll probably take some pictures of it. It's not good. I'm not having a good time. It sucks. I did look up this author and none of his stuff is rated that high. I get it. I do. I am 100 pages in. I feel like I have been listening for months and months and months. It hasn't been that long. Like, I'm only listening to like 2 hours. I'm not very far in. The writing is so tiny. It's so tiny. Why? It does suck. This is a really nice floppy paperback too. So this is about a guy who like basically becomes obsessed with Edgar Allan Poe, and when Edgar Allan Poe dies, and you know, Edgar Allan Poe died in like kind of a weird, mysterious fashion. Like, I still don't know if they ever figured out. I don't know, never really looked that far into it. Anyway, his death was kind of weird. So basically this guy becomes obsessed. He drops like his whole life to look into Poe's death, basically. And then the premise of this book is that he gets swept up into like some secret society type things. Seems like things I would enjoy. Everyone around him is also like, my dude, let it go. And he's like, no, I must go across the waters into Europe to figure, I don't know why, to look into this, even though Edgar Allan Poe died in Baltimore. Okay, sure. Anyway, normally this would be my kind of thing. I love like historical like mysteries that really dig into things that are also a little on the mundane side. I love those. The Historian is one of my all-time favorite books. I love that shit. This ain't it. This is just, I don't know. It's like trying too hard to be quirky at times, but the delivery is so flat. And the character is just so uninteresting. I just imagine him, even with the narrator in an audiobook, I just imagine that he's just so like monotoned and just like, I don't know, just annoying. There are some Black characters in this book. They are never given a name, and they also are called by the N word that ends with the O, and I just feel uncomfortable with that as well. And it's mentioned, like the first time I was like, oh, and then it's mentioned more times after that, and I was just like, I don't know. I get like it's supposed to be in a historical setting, but anyway, so I think it's gonna have to go. I might take some pictures of it just because it's gorgeous, and then I'm gonna tell it goodbye.
Okay. Why do I say okay at the beginning of like every single clip that I do? Anyway, whatever. I finished The Demonic, which this is I believe self-published. This kind of took me by surprise. It's about this woman who has left her home many years and now she has a family, but her father has died and they have to return to her childhood home in order to put him on the ground. But when they get there, there's something sinister still in the house. So it isn't like a groundbreaking, idea for a horror novel, so to say, but I have to say, I could not read this if it was not during the day. I was really creeped out. The depictions of the things in this house are so disgusting and disturbing, and it was very ooky spooky, so it did such a good job at that. I didn't really care for a lot of the characters, so at the end of the day, I didn't really care what happened to them. There was also, I don't know if it was ableist, but it read a little bit weird. There is a character in this, it is the son, who is physically disabled, and the amount of times everyone, like the family members, were just like, oh my god, he's so brave, and look at him go, and he's doing so well, and I'm just like, he's just living his life. Just, maybe I'm reading too far into that. I don't know if this is a book that I would necessarily recommend a lot. And given that, I do think I'm going to unhaul this. At the end of the day, it was probably about a 3. Again, it could have used some editing, and I just don't feel a great attachment to it. It's not something I'm ever going to reread. I don't think it's going to be something I'm recommending a lot, because I think this type of story has been done better in ways. There's also this just like a weird amount of pages in the back. All of this here is not even part of the story. Just talking about the other things that this author has done, and also some of the scary stories that this pulls from and true events that it pulls from. And I will say, it says that it was inspired by true events, and it almost takes those true events and just plops them right into the story. Someone else could really enjoy this, especially someone who is just getting into horror. I think this could be a good step into it, but I just don't think I care to own this anymore. Okay, wait, let's it's really short. Let's talk about my dilemma. This is where I'm at in the two, well, I'm technically in the middle of 3 books. In the 2 books that I am on. The Witches of New York. I don't really want to continue an audio because I kind of want to annotate the hell out of this book because of how much I'm loving it. But that means it's going to take longer to read. And then this one, I'm so close to being done, which is Dracula, My Love. And I feel like I should just go ahead and finish it this morning. But I don't want to. I love being a mood reader. A mystery, thriller, horror type situation. So that makes me want to go to the Hacienda. I have a problem with choosing books and sticking with them. I'm also, today, it's kind of gloomy. It's like a weird day. I don't know. It's like, it might rain, it might snow, it might ice. I don't know what's going on. I kind of just want to, my kitchen needs like a deep clean. It just needs reorganized. It's kind of a disarray. So I'm going to do that while I listen to probably the Hacienda. There has ever been a book that I needed to do like a halfway check-in for, it was this one, and I didn't, and I should have, because my thoughts between the first part of this and the second part of this are wildly different. Dracula, My Love is a straight-up Dracula retelling, but it's from the point of view of Mina Harker, who is the wife of Jonathan Harker. So if you aren't familiar with Dracula, he's the one who originally goes to Dracula's castle, and so this is from her point of view, and all that jazz. But it's also, obviously, as a retelling, there's a few differences in it, and that we see her while he is away,
Like, she is preparing for him to return and whatnot. She's with her friend, and she ends up meeting this guy that she feels really drawn to, and of course, it's Dracula, and she is in love with Jonathan and Dracula at the same time. First half of this, I was absolutely loving. I loved it. I love the atmosphere. I'm like, oh my god, this is such a fantastic way of retelling this from her point of view. She's so much smarter than the men, so like, yeah. It also talks about how it's like a sexual awakening for her and whatnot, and my issues all come in the second half, which is probably I should have seen coming, because this follows the source material in pacing very well. And if you don't know, I don't like Dracula. I found it to be very long and way too long-winded. It was just a lot of stuff that I didn't care about, and this falls into that same thing. It just follows the source material just a little too much. And that the second half does the same thing, where it's like we're just following all the mundane things between, and I just didn't care. I wanted all the Dracula stuff. The sexual awakening, there isn't any, like, if you are expecting spicy scenes, you don't really get that, which is fine, but I do feel like some people go into this thinking, oh my god, it's a spicy romance, but it's really not. It's actually, the sex scenes are very underwhelming all the time. Like, the three that are in this are very underwhelming. As much as I enjoyed this new perspective, it was also annoying at times, because she is married to Jonathan and she is cheating on him with Dracula. So it is well written in a way, but also annoying at times at the fact that you can't tell if you're being gaslit or not by Dracula. The amount of times I'm like, I can't tell if this is honest or not. And I guess that's part of the whole thing, because like Mina isn't going to know that either. You're just kind of hoping for the best and hoping that you can trust these people. So I don't know, but at the end of the day, I just thought it went on way too long. I feel like it still could have been a really good retelling if it hadn't spent so long on trying to fit in the same events and details that happened in the original. There could have been some things that were cut. We could have added a bunch of new things, because obviously we add all kinds of romantic scenes and whatnot, but I'm gonna give it a 3. I do really like the premise of it, and I thought a lot of parts of it were executed well, but it's just not a story that I enjoy. And I feel like I probably should have known that, given how much I didn't love. I loved the beginning and the end of Dracula, and it's kind of the same in this. I loved the beginning and the end of it. I don't think I'm gonna hang on to this. I don't know. I kind of want to, because the aesthetics of it, and I could see myself recommending this and like, look at this beautiful spine. But I don't ever see myself rereading it. I honestly feel like I'm gonna put it on my shelves and forget about it. So do I need to keep it? I don't think so. Book is due in less than an hour. And I still have, what am I at? 79%. Less than an hour, and I'm doing it. I'm at 2.5 times speed. I might bump it up to 3. I do own the book, but I want to listen to the audio. So we're on a spree. I managed to finish this with like 20 minutes to spare. Thank goodness for like 3 times speed. But less. I'm glad my brain comprehends 3 times speed as well. The beginning of this book had me questioning everything. Really, I wasn't very invested at the very beginning. It has a really slow build up, and I was like, I don't know, this might end up having to be a DNF, because I don't think I'm going to be able to get done it, and I'm not really looking forward to getting back into it. But I was like, I don't know, I kind of like spooky, creepy houses. So we'll push through, we'll see. And at about the 25% mark there's a difference. That's when things start happening, and then I started getting really interested in the characters and what was happening. Everything up to that point
just felt like part of me knew that it was necessary to understand the characters, but a lot of it just felt really unnecessary, honestly. And I will say, I got really into it. I was like so invested, so impressed. And then the pacing changes again to be excruciatingly slow. And I don't know. I get like having like a build up and then like exciting things happen and then a slowdown and a build up again, but this just, the pacing of this went from like one extreme to the other for me. And I just couldn't get into it. However, the parts that are like exciting, thrilling, mysterious, and all that stuff are so good. This is the scariest Sitting in House that I have read. The scariest, in my opinion, because like you might actually die from this house. That is how ooky spooky this one is, and like the way that it is described of like actually feeling the house and like sensing the house and knowing that it is like malicious. I loved that. The atmosphere, amazing. The character, amazing. There is what I consider, there's a pretty like complicated, complex character in this who I think steals the show. Yes, we have a Beatrice, but I just don't think she is as interesting as the priest. I just really don't think that she is. I like the two of them together. I like that they really complement each other in ways. So I enjoyed that. I like that there was a little bit of like twists and turns here, some plot twists, but for the most part, you're kind of just going into it knowing that it is an ooky spooky house and some shit has happened. And that's all you really need to know. But I do think I'm gonna end up giving this probably a 3.5 because again, the pacing was just killing me. I just went through one extreme of like I do not care about any of this to like the other extreme of like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. I don't know. I did enjoy this. I could definitely recommend this to people, especially if you like Haunting of Hill House vibes and whatnot. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5. That's where, yes. Yes, I'm sorry. Sometimes the really good parts overshadow things, which can happen on both sides, but like the good parts in this were so good. They were so good, but I have to keep in mind that there were a lot of parts that I also really disliked. I am on to my last two books, which I haven't even given you an update. I'll give you updates on the other books at some point. But right now I am trying to finish My Best Friend's Exorcism. Hey, hi, hello. Let's talk about My Best Friend's Exorcism while I unbox some of the fun things that I got. I can say, when I started My Best Friend's Exorcism, the beginning of it had me absolutely hooked. I loved learning about, like, these kids and their relationship, like, becoming best friends, and I really loved seeing that relationship at the very beginning, and also just, like, the 80s vibes were so good. It was all there. And I just really loved the build-up to this. And then things just started getting really weird. And I'm not gonna lie, a little bit in the middle, I didn't really know what to expect anymore. There was a lot of weird things happening, and not things that always made the most sense to me necessarily, but I liked it. The vibes were everything. So this is basically about two girls who are friends like their whole lives, and then in high school, something weird happens. And one of the girls ends up, she's kind of like missing for the night, and they end up finding her like naked in the woods, and she swears everything is fine, but then she starts acting really weird, right? So that leads the other friend to believe that maybe a demon has possessed her. So that's like kind of what happens, and how she wants to get this demon out of her friend. I can't get over how freaking cute this packaging is. So that's kind of where that is. A lot of stuff goes down, a lot happens, and I will say I really enjoyed this. I just thought the characters are really complex. They do things that like aren't great, but they're like what dumb teenagers would do, I feel like, in the moment. And I think the pacing was also really well done. It is not my favorite Grady Hendrix book, which is fine. His older stuff doesn't tend to be my favorite. Okay, this is from Sniff and Bark, and I know that this is a new collar for Frankie, but this is the cutest
packaging I've ever seen. What kind of dog mom are you? How'd they know I was a dog mom? How'd they know? This packaging is adorable. It's like exorcism stuff and like religious based horror isn't always my favorite, but I do think that this did it really well in the ways that it did do it. It lost me, I feel like, a little kind of in the middle to the end. Like, I just kind of got lost in a lot that was happening. It was a lot of whiplash between the characters of like, oh my god, F you, oh my god, we're besties, no, F you, we're besties. But I feel like that is like kind of what high school friendships with girls feels like at times. Maybe that was just my experience. So I don't know, maybe that's just how things are. I do think it's weird that Grady Hendrix always writes from the point of view of like a woman. That's weird. Look at this new collar. Look at this pattern. It's gorgeous. I thought it was going to be a little bit more orange, but it's kind of like a mustardy color. And it comes with a bow tie you can attach to the collar. This is so cute. Ooh, okay. Well, I'm not joining your Facebook group. It's a nice thought. I would prefer to avoid Facebook at all costs. A 3 stars. Again, like, it was a fun experience. It was nice. It just wasn't my favorite, and I think it's more of the content than anything. Like, I just kind of started, it was a little long-winded overall. Oh, and we got a new leash because someone isn't very good with hers, so we needed one that has better self-control. So picked up some nails, which I'm probably gonna put on these rainbow ones. Picked up some nails just for funsies. Every once in a while I like to just put on press-on nails. Less commitment. And then, oh, and we got Frankie's muzzle. Thing that I have, I'm the most excited about. Big heckin' box. Look how big this box is. This has a plushie in it. This is from Fluff Nest, which is like a video game that is going to be out and was like crowdfunded, but they have she's basically in the meantime before the games come out, and these will be the characters in the games. But this is Vinny the vampire bat as a keychain. I got him as a keychain because I think I'm gonna hang him off of my mic in my stream area. But look how cute he is. So this is Vinny. It's a mushroom. Look at how fluffy he is. Oh my god. Look how big. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. A shiitake mushroom, I believe. And it's so big and fluffy. I'm so excited. I'm really glad I went with a big one. Technically his name is Gus. The problem is I already have a plushie named Gus. So I think I might call him Gloom. I love him. Amazing. I'm really into mushrooms a whole lot. I like how I got like the biggest one they have. Well, I guess this is like the second biggest plushie that they have, and like one of the smallest. I love that for me. I've saved the best 2 for last. Technically, I didn't read these last, but they're the last 2 I'm going to tell you about because both of these were 5-star reads. So I don't even know which one I want to talk about first. Let's talk about The Witches of New York, because this is the one I probably put off the longest. A lovely patron was like, hey, you're going to love this. And I don't know if maybe I just didn't trust the patron, or if like the whole sometimes historical like fantasy stuff, I'm like, I don't know, but I always tend to love it. So I don't know why I do that, but this was so good. Okay, so it follows multiple points of views, and one thing that I really liked is that as someone with ADHD, sometimes I like to go on tangents, right? And like just really get off the topic. That's basically, I feel like, how this read a lot. You'd be talking about something, but it would pertain to something else. So the story would take the time to kind of go off and like explain this other thing to you, but it wasn't like info dumpy. It was done in a really great way, and it really flowed well. We follow several different people, but there's 3 main characters, and they're witches. 2 of which work in a tea shop, and one, who is very young, I think she's like 18, decides she wants to come to the city and also work in this tea shop and discover that she is a witch, along with the witches in the tea shop. The thing is, during this time period, witchcraft is not super popular amongst the people. We're not necessarily talking like super magical, like spell type things. It's more ingredients, mixing ingredients into like teas and herbal things, and also just like stones that mean things. And there's tarot reading, and it's about like some of them have special gifts in that, like some of them can see ghosts and some of them can't, and things like that. So it was, I think, more of a traditional sense of a witch and not so much like the super magical part of being a witch. It was lovely. So we follow these 3 witches, and of course we're also learning about some of the witch hunts that are happening, and also just some of the other history around this area and these witches and why things have come to be and this witch hunt that is kind of happening. And of course, I think obviously you can kind of see it coming. It's like kind of the premise of the story, but one of our witches does get herself into some trouble with a witch hunter. There's also like witch eaters. Anyway, it's like a black market for witch eaters. It was so weird because I got into this and I'm like trying to feel out the vibe, right? And I'm like, oh, this is like so whimsical and it's like kind of silly. And then the next page would be like someone locked in a dungeon being ready to be killed. I loved the characters. They all just felt so unique, so lovely, and I really just wanted to hang out with them. I wanted to hang out with this trio. I wanted to work in this tea shop. I wanted to visit this tea shop. I wanted to be their friends. 5 out of 5. The atmosphere was amazing. The pacing was amazing. It was the perfect mix of like whimsy, but also just dark, magical things. It was also gritty at times, but like not in a way that makes you turn away. I also understand it was everything I think I could have ever wanted in like a witch book, honestly. So it was a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. I am really not doing myself justice in this vlog with any of the lighting and any of the situations that I've been in, but also I do own another sweatshirt. I was looking at all the clips that I have for this vlog and it's just this sweatshirt. It just so happens that this is my comfort sweatshirt right now. I do own other ones. I swear. The thing I should mention about this before I move on is that this does use the G slur a lot. Not necessarily in a derogatory way, to be warned. It does use that word a decent amount. So, now, on to Mended. Now, this is a sequel to a Spindled, Splintered, which is a feminist retelling of Sleeping Beauty, which we follow a girl who has a chronic illness, terminally ill, basically. And it's her birthday and she just wants to have fun with her friend. It kind of is like a last hoorah in a way, and she ends up going into her favorite fairy tale, which is Sleeping Beauty. Of course, she has a lot of things to say about Sleeping Beauty and standards that it sets and like the terrible things that happen, like, ooh, imagine being kissed by someone in your sleep. Ooh, that's weird. So like there's a lot of things to critique about the story. I think what I like about these is that they feel so unexpected at times. Fairy tale that you know, obviously, but then it basically spends the rest of the time like nitpicking it, but without feeling like it's nitpicking it and like making fun of it and like giving commentary on it. It just feels like someone living in the moment, which is basically what she's doing, and like her thoughts and feelings in those moments as someone from our time period in that moment. Just being like, you know, this is so silly, right? And I love that there are sometimes pop culture references. I will say that they probably won't age well, so I don't always love pop culture references, but it kind of works in this context. But this one is based around a villain. It's based around the evil queen. Reworking how the villains are in the story, but also just like things to say about like Snow White and things like that as well. So again, you get like that commentary and new insight onto these stories. Are you really going to take a shit right now? I'm sitting beside the litter box. This is my fault. It's my fault. I just wanted to be in a calm and serene environment, and I'm getting shit on.
I love these. They're really quick. They're really fast paced. I love the characters. I also love that they're like flawed. Like the characters, you know, there's things that she does and things that she doesn't do that she has to take accountability for. And we see that. And so much is just packed into these. Alex Haro is just such a fantastic writer. I put her up there with Neil Gaiman. Not necessarily the same type of writing style, but in a way the vibes are similar, but just the way that she writes things are so comprehensible, but also whimsical, but also dark. Whimsical is the word here. Do I like whimsy? A little bit, yes. Do I like it when it's mostly dark? Yes. Both of these have a female-female relationship in them, so maybe that's also a thing that I just like. All right, so let's do a little bit of a wrap up of this unhaul challenge because I feel like it went really well. I got a little bit of a slump in February, but I flew through everything else in March, I feel like, so I'm feeling pretty accomplished. I feel like technically I got these all done in a month. February's a short month, you know? So you probably didn't see anything. Well, I know you didn't because I didn't talk about Monsters Born and Made. Originally, I thought I was going to have to unhaul this, but then I realized I never picked a save book this time. I get one save each time I do one of these, and it was a very ambitious TBR. So, this is the book that I am saving. It is an ARC, so it's not like I would be too terribly upset if I do end up having to get rid of it, but I think I'm going to put this in my books that will self-destruct in 1 year pile, so I'm going to make myself read this within the year. Maybe I'll do that with all the future unhaul books, like I have to read it within the year or something. I don't know. So we're going to go ahead and save this one. I do think I'm really going to like it. It's a fantasy with games, and I tend to enjoy those, and I feel like I'm about to be in the mood for one of those again. I think this went really well, in that we had some really fantastic books. 2 5-star reads, both magical and whimsical, dare I say. We also had, some ones that I enjoyed, but like weren't perfect, but I still thought that they were really enjoyable for some reason or another, and I want to keep because I do think I would see myself recommending these and or rereading these at some point. So My Best Friend's Exorcism and The Hacienda are staying. We also had The Witchlings, which was really cute and something I could see myself continuing to read in a series. Also just adorable and something I can see myself recommending. So also a keep. Then we got some, you know, I don't even think I have the post shadow. I don't even know where it's at. It went immediately into the unhaul. It was DNF, bad, didn't enjoy. And then we have ones that like were fine, but not anything I feel the need to keep. So I am unhauling 3 books from this TBR. So The Demonic it did what it set out to do. It delivered, but not anything that I feel is, not anything super original, not anything I could see myself recommending or really wanting in my collection because I'm never going to reread this. So hopefully I have a lot of horror friends at work. Hopefully one of them will want this and enjoy this. And then we also have Dracula, My Love, which I actually kind of forgot that I was going to unhaul this, and I was like, I guess I'll just put it back on my shelves, but I'm going to do it. Doesn't matter that it has a beautiful spine. I will find plenty of other books with beautiful spines and aesthetics. This one just wasn't it. It follows Dracula too closely, which is not a book that I've ever enjoyed anyway. So 3 unhauls and some faves and some books that I really enjoyed. I think that's a success. I think that's why I end up pushing through, because I feel like I got the bad ones out kind of first, and at first I was like, oh, but then I started getting to the good ones, and normally I want to do these challenges within a month, but I was like, I don't know, I'm on a roll. There's so many good ones that I'm on right now, so we're going to keep it rolling. So, next unhaul challenge, we will be back to randomly pulling from your suggestions from the last video that I did. So there will be a theme based around it, and then I'll curate a TBR from my owned collection. I do think it will probably be a little while, and I don't think I'm going to be as ambitious with my TBR. Maybe I'll stick to like 3 books next time, maybe 4. 4 I feel like is a good number 5 if we're pushing it, but given my reading habits within the past year are not like amazing and it's just sporadic, I think 3 to 4 will be fine for the future. And then I can probably do them more often. That's what I'm thinking. Okay. That was my unhaul challenge. I feel like we've done good. I feel like this was a good honkin' chunk of books to read from my collection. And now my to be read cart is empty and I can start adding things that I actually am reading there so that I don't forget that I'm reading them. I hope that you liked this video. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye!